everyone. My name is Jeremiah Short, and I'm here to present Adding Rigor to a New Word Study Approach for LitCon 2022, the National K-8 Literacy and Reading and Recovery Conference. So I have to start by, of course, announcing myself. My name is Jeremiah Short. I have a bachelor's of science. I'm a content interventionist at Fraser Elementary. I know some might be asking, what's a content interventionist? So I'll explain that quickly. I'm actually a reading interventionist right now, but as a content interventionist, I can intervene with reading and math. So I'll give my aunt the floor where she can announce herself and talk about her credentials. You're muted. So it seemed like we had an issue with it being muted. We are live. So my aunt is Sandra Simpson. Go ahead.
I'm Sandra Simpson. I'm a Spanish teacher at Meridian High School. Teach Spanish and incorporate English phonics in my classroom.
Thank you. Well, I'll call her Sandra Simpson, but that's my aunt Sandra. All right, so in my classroom, I always have an agenda. So this semester I've been interventionist / teacher. So I always have an agenda in my classroom. So I thought it'd be good for this presentation to have an agenda. So I'll start with the flow of, since everything I do is structured to blooms, which is talking about the adding rigor to the word study routine, I'm gonna break it down this way. So I'm gonna make a real world connection by talking about the origins of the routine and the overall effect size according to visible learning. Then we're gonna get into the knowledge part, the first part of blooms. What is the routine? What are the components of it? Comprehension. What does it actually look like? Then we're gonna get to the application. What does it look like in a classroom? So I have a former student's little sister, and you'll see that student also during this presentation. She's gonna help me model what the routines look like. All right, and during the analysis part, I'm gonna show you the data on results and the overall Q&A. We're gonna have a Q&A, waiting for some people to join. So we'll have a Q&A, and then an evaluate, we'll talk about, is the routine effective? And then a synthesis. How will you use this in your classroom or interventions? All right, so let's get to it. All right, let's talk about the origins of the routine. I'm gonna take you back to 2019, 2020, the first part of that year. I was doing a TPRI test. That's something we do here in Texas where we test your word reading, your grapheme knowledge. And I did a particular student's TPRI. He cannot sound out a word, he could not spell a word. And even with this reading, he truly struggled. It was the only time in my teaching career that I legitimately wanted to cry. And I talked to my sister, who is really good with dyslexia. And for understand, I knew that student had a family history of that. And I asked her, what could I do? She was like, hey, why don't you, he has to see it. So I was like, man, what can I do? I'm really big on Bloom. So I really brainstormed, I researched a bit, and I came up with a word study routine that incorporated all the elements. That it's not just phonological awareness, not just phonemic awareness, it's not just phonics or vocabulary, it's all three rolled into one. So you might wonder, how did that student turn out? Well, I'm not gonna tell you, I'll let him tell you.
And before being in Mr. Short's phenomenal class, I had a hard time reading. I went to kindergarten reading level to on-grade reading level, and in his class he made reading fun, and I couldn't wait on the weekends to go back to class to go read books. And I had a hard time comprehending the reading, but until I was in Mr. Short's class, and he made every subject fun and phenomenal. And Mr. Short is the greatest teacher I've ever known.
Well, he may have laid it on a little thick there. I don't know if I'm the greatest ever, but I do truly appreciate being able to teach that student. And then he gave me a gift of being able to come up with a great system that may be able to help many more students. All right, so now what I would like to talk about is the overall effect size of word study. I had a little trouble with the bullet points, so I would have rather it came down one by one, but we'll make it work. So let's talk about the effect size. Many of you that may be watching may be familiar with visible learning. So I'm gonna talk about all the things that can be encompassed with this word study routine and visible learning. So you talk about a strategy to integrate prior knowledge. You can talk about classroom discussion, phonics instruction, vocabulary programs, and spelling programs. So to those who may be novices in just learning, integrate prior knowledge. So you talk about what kids, their prior experiences, what they've learned, what they've seen. It's a great opportunity with this word study program. You get to hear a lot of that. Kids bring in a lot of their own knowledge, what they like to watch. I don't know how many times I heard Coco Melon in the past couple of weeks from my kids when it comes to discussing things when we do our vocab trailers. Obviously, it's tremendous for classroom discussion, especially on the first and fourth day of the routine. Then you have phonics instruction. Of course, that's embedded in it with the spelling, vocabulary programs, and spelling programs. All those things are embedded within this system. So there always has to be a learning intention. Of course, everything's structured according to Bloom. So overall, what I want you to learn is learn how to add rigor to a new word study approach. That's the overall learning intention for the presentation. And our objective, I can identify, so our first objective is I can identify the parts of a new word study routine. So as I stated, I structure everything according to Bloom. So I'm gonna do this presentation according to that as well. So first I'm gonna explain what all the different parts are. First, you have Bloom's taxonomy, the 6 different levels. You have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Those are all the components of Bloom taxonomy. So that's the first part, the core part of the routine. Then you have word study. It's a routine that incorporates phonological awareness, phonics, and vocabulary. And then one of the first parts is phonological awareness. It's the overall umbrella that governs, and not just phonics, but it's 6 different components of phonological awareness. You have word awareness, phonemic awareness, which is isolating the sounds, syllable awareness, rhyme awareness, first sound awareness, and alliteration awareness. So it's all those things encompass phonological awareness. Then you have phonics, the spelling portion of it. It's a method of teaching to teach reading by correlating sounds with letters or group of letters in an alphabetic writing system. So it's one thing for kids to hear it, but they have to be able to filter that out and then put it down on paper, whether it's in their writing or with their spelling. Then you have vocabulary instruction. The explicit teaching of words seen in text and certain content areas. So you see there, you want to be able to integrate it, you want to be able to repetition, and then meaningful use, which is the core, true core of the word study routine. You put all those components together and you have phenomenal word power. That is what I call my overall system and routine, because words are powerful. My room is the phenomenal room, as my former student just articulated. So I call it phenomenal word power, building off of that. So that is the basic identifier of the system. Now we move into the second objective. I can discuss the components of phenomenal word power. This is the meat, the comprehension piece of what the routine is. First, let's start with day 1. This is a 5-day routine. First, I only added 2 components for that particular day just for time, but normally I start off by isolating the sound. So I might go, O makes the O sound. And then I might be like, O-A makes the O sound. So get the kids to start learning what that sound is. Then I might go into traditional word power. I go, word, what? And the kids will say power. They're like, this is what that is. And so I might go the first word, the first word is gold. What's the word? And then the kids will go gold. And then I might go, okay, the 4th word is bowl. What's the word? And then I might say, hey, what is something you eat in a bowl, or something to that effect? So just reinforcing those words, and that's the phonological awareness, teaching them how to say the word, and it brings a lot of energy to start the week. And then I change it to an art dealer voice. Okay, scholars, I want you to underline the long O pattern in each word. So the student will go up to the board and they're like, the word is snow and the long O pattern is OW. So they identify the pattern in each word. So after I do that part of the routine, I go to vocab trailers, which is not my original routine. I got this from Joanne Billison, which I did obtain her permission to be able to use this particular routine that she uses. And oddly enough, I learned this in a science training, but I decided to remix it for my word study program. And funny story with that, I remember showing my routine to Ms. Billingsley, and she asked me, how quickly do you introduce the visuals? And I was like, hey, maybe third day. And she was like, no, you got to do it immediately. So that's when the vocab trailers came about, just through that professional growth and taking that feedback. So I added this, and this will be modeled soon. But as you see that a vocab trailer, it gives them the sentence stem and gives kids an opportunity to talk. Now we have day 2. So this could be clap it out, tap it out, and even sometimes I have kids jump up and down to sound the words out. And I will model that soon. But so I might go location, and then the kids do it in unison with me, kind of getting that kinesthetic aspect, tactile aspect there with it. And then one of the routines, one I just recently started doing, is match it. So, and then for phonics, a lot of times I have kids sort. But here for match it, the kids have to identify, I give them the word, then have to get the definition, and then at the same time, they also have to match it with the picture. So they have to do that. So that would be day 2. This is just the meat of it. Do they understand? Moving on to day 3. So there are 3 different things. On that day, first, I might actually teach the kids to substitute. That's something I decided to add after doing a little bit more studying. I decided to add that on day 3 because that is a level of application, them being able to apply, substitute, do it, add it, delete, do those different parts of phonemic awareness. So I added that to the 3rd day. But 2 of the core parts of that day is I either have the kids read a connected text, so they might read something with that pattern. So here's OW, so they might read, and you can even have stuff like this where you have the actual passage and a couple questions, sometimes low rigor, but at the same time, just get them in the mode of being able to look for the pattern and the actual comprehension part of it. And then here you have guided spelling. So instead of the traditional spelling test, I know that's a big topic in education, I have the kids actually spell it out, and I go by and model and remind them of the rules and help them spell. And just, and I'll get to the data and results soon, but I can talk about a little bit what my kids did before and what they are doing currently. Okay, and you have day 4, which is actually my favorite day. So you have stations 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. And then I have the kids get in their table groups, and they go around and they discuss it with each other, and they talk about what's your favorite show. You get a lot, you learn a lot about the kids there, integrating that prior knowledge. And then here you might ask a student to write a convincing letter to someone to let them borrow $1,000. One of my students actually wrote that they said they needed money for rent. And then here they would sort the words, and then however they feel they want to sort it, I give them leeway on that. And then here, I actually would let my kids debate this year. What is a better local place for kids, Chuck E. Cheese or Houston Zoo? And I actually would let them face off, and they would debate. And then here on day 5 is evaluating sentences. So we'll have a quick little story with 5 words. And then I actually started adding a few other little components. So say like this week, last week, we were going over adjectives. So I added a question like, which one of the weekly words is used as an adjective? What word did it modify? And then my student said blue and blue skies. And then here, evaluate. Do you want to go on a family camping trip? Why? Why not? And then yes, because I can spend time with my family. So it gives them a chance to actually think about that and start evaluating and actually critically thinking. Then here, that same student actually wrote a quick little story. They were able to illustrate, and then they marked which words they use. And as you see, you can see how kids spell. There's a lot of things you can tell, like how are they advancing when it comes to grammatical structures. There's a lot of things you can tell from this. All right, so now we move on to, now that you've learned the comprehension and what it looks like, the objective now, I can model key routines in a phenomenal word power method. So this is gonna be 2 parts. So first, I'm gonna model some of the routines with that student that is joining, Elizabeth Gibson from Cron Elementary, and we're gonna go through a couple of those routines. So Liz, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. So we practiced this the other day, so she should be quite ready. All right, so you just repeat after me. All right, the first word is gold. What's the word?
Gold.
The second word is float. What's the word?
Float.
The third word is soak. What's the word?
Soak.
The fourth word is bowl. What's the word?
Bowl.
So Liz, what is something that you eat in a bowl?
Cereal.
Cereal,
Or
okay.
soup.
So what's your favorite cereal?
Frosted Flakes.
Ah, again, integrating that prior knowledge. The fifth word is coast. What's the word?
Coast.
Awesome. The 11th, we're gonna skip ahead a little bit. The 11th word is location. What's the word?
Location.
Love it. The 12th word is owner. What's the word?
Owner.
The 13th word is borrow. What's the word?
Borrow.
The 14th word is program. What's the word?
Program.
The 15th word is local. What's the word?
Local.
Love it. All right, so now we're gonna do some vocab trailers. So Liz, the vocab word is coach, and then you have in this picture, you have to say in this picture. So in this, think about what's going on. Do the kids, do you think they really like the coach? What sport is it? What are they doing? So in this picture.
In this picture, the coach is telling the kids what to do in the game in soccer. And as you see, the kids are very interested in what he's saying.
Love it. So how do you know that they're very interested in what he's saying?
Because I can see the girl with the blonde braids is like bending over and looking at the teacher, and some of them are just like staring and probably trying to listen, and he's looking at people telling them what to do.
Love it. Great job, Liz. All right, and then our second one is our vocab word is either loan or borrow. So think about for what, who is it, and how much money is it? So in this picture.
The girl is trying to borrow a loan from her mom, which is probably like $200 in the mom's hand.
Mm-hmm. Excellent job. Go ahead.
What?
Okay. So let's move ahead to day 2. So let's practice sounding out the words. So all right, let's tap it. Well, since you're in the car, we can adjust and differentiate. So let's clap it out. So low.
Low.
K.
K.
Shun.
Shun.
Location.
Location.
All right. O.
O.
Ner.
Ner.
Owner.
Owner.
Ba.
Ball.
Row.
Whoa.
Borrow.
Borrow.
Pro.
Pro.
Gram.
Gram.
Program.
Program.
Low.
Low.
Call.
Cool.
Local.
Local.
All right, terrific job. All right, so here, of course, we have day 3, but we're gonna skip ahead to day 4. So, all right, station 1, give me info. What's your favorite show and tell me about it? So Liz, what is your favorite show?
My favorite show is actually there's a little baby show that my little baby watched, which is Bluey, and for some reason everybody in 3rd grade watches it, and it actually is a really good show, and it shows
Is it Coco Melon?
No, it's like shows it's like a dog version of humans where they talk and you can learn about stuff, and there's like a happy ending at all of them.
Awesome. All right, so station 2, a little reading. Write a convincing letter for someone to let you borrow $1,000. So what would you say, Liz, to convince somebody to let you borrow $1,000?
I need $1,000 to move away from you because your child is very annoying. That's why I need $1,000.
So, and as you see here, I incorporate a lot of the words from the week. So you have show, and then you have borrow. So I find a way to incorporate them with multiple prompts. All right, we'll skip past station 3 because we can't show that here. It's kind of hard to model that one, but station 4, either or. So which is a better local place for kids, Chuck E. Cheese or the Houston Zoo? So Liz, tell me which one is better and give me some reasons.
I think Chuck E. Cheese is better because there is games, pizza, my favorite one, and the one that we go to, they give you a stamp and you can also customize your pizza.
Oh, look at that word choice, love it.
And there can be birthdays over there, and my brother has his 5th birthday over there, and they let you, I'm pretty sure they let you go on the stage and say your name, and then like everybody in there will sing happy birthday to you, and you go into this thing where like you stand there and there's be like an air thing that blows it up so you could grab all the tickets so like you can catch them in, or you can go to the Houston Zoo to look at the animals like the elephants, the gorillas, and one of my most favorite ones were the monkeys, even though they were really loud and I could not get it out of my head. And I really liked the part where I think it was like some animal that swam, because I liked that part. Because for some reason, I was able to touch the water.
Wow. You almost want to get me into teach mode right now. So right now, technically, that's what we are doing. So Liz, I would like to thank you for helping me model. You did a marvelous job. So Elizabeth Gibson from Crown Elementary, I think you're going to be hearing about her in about 10 years, guys. I think she's going to be a star.
Great job, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
All right, so now Sandra Simpson, my aunt, is gonna talk to everyone about how you can use a word power system, the word power system in teaching English students to learn Spanish classroom.
Well, hello, everyone. I am so happy to be able to speak to you. This year, something happened in our school district. They introduced a program called Reading Plus to our students. So every year I've taught Spanish. I have always taught phonics and diphthongs and all the things that go along with reading, the whole phenomenal reading wall in Spanish. But this year with Reading Plus, I'm so excited to say that I incorporated this word wall, which is the opposite of what we do in English. You know, you have the AT and then you have bat and cat and sat. And so the opposite of that in Spanish, of course, is that you take the consonants and go forward with ta, ta, tito, too. So it's so exciting, so wonderful seeing my students get involved and creating some posters, actually doing the reading structures and sounding out the English. So every day before we actually did Reading Plus, we did reading wall in English, I know, with the basics of phonics in English, and then the E sound behind it. So I'm so excited, and of course my goal is to incorporate eventually all 5 steps of this phenomenal word power wall inside of my classroom and make it accessible to my students. So just a really, really exciting year, being able to reverse my usual Spanish wall. Although I did teach my Spanish wall, incorporating the English phenomenal word power wall into my classroom. So really a phenomenal year, and looking forward to it, actually doing the same thing when we go back in January to May with my students, reversing my wall, doing the English, and then progressively incorporating step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 inside of my classroom.
Awesome. Thank you. I keep calling her Aunt Sandra because it is my aunt, so it's kind of hard to call her something different. But thank you, Sandra Simpson. And now we get into the part of I can analyze the phenomenal word power method. So of course, there are going to be people watching this. They want to know the data. What are the results of it? So I decided I wanted to add some data from this. From my first year trying to routine, to ironically the same year I taught that student. And first, I'm going to show my phonological awareness growth. So we started here at the beginning of the year. All my students, a sample size of 15 students. They were at 72% on their decoding. Now you got to think that adds in students who might have started off the year at 90 or 95%. So there's some students that were far below that, obviously. But as you can see here, they made a significant jump. I didn't start doing this until the beginning of the second 9 weeks. And they made a 10-point jump as a class from the beginning to middle of the year. And then they made another quick 6-7% jump at the end of third 9 weeks. And then by the end of the year, in which we were still in COVID, so this is something obviously that can be done virtually, even while someone's in a car. And I did that a lot virtually that year that we had COVID, you know, all of us were dealing with. It went to overall as a class, it was about 91, 92% overall as a class. So most of the students, I think, only had 1 or 2 students that were below 80% on their decoding. So as a classroom, it was quite successful in being able to make those students be able to decode. Then we have the phonics portion of it. As you see here, the end of the year is missing because I felt that wouldn't be valid data because we were virtual. It's kind of hard to really gauge if that was accurate. But as you can see here, the kids started off at 37% at the beginning of the year on their graphemic knowledge, according to TPRI. But by the middle of the year, using the system, the students had jumped over 20 points as a class. And then by the end of the third 9 weeks, it was 68%. So you're talking about a 31-point jump in essentially 2 9 weeks using the system. So it was quite effective at being able to not only help kids decode, but also spell. So the big one is vocabulary. So I would say my students' data from the beginning of the year, 2019, and then we already make a jump already to the beginning of the year, 2020. So as you can see here, the students started off, I think it was around 173 or 174. And then by the beginning of the year, 2020, they were at 198, which is a 2.4-year growth. And it transferred over into their reading as well because they made 2 years growth there. And then anecdotally, I'll talk about my current classroom. I was blessed with the opportunity to be able to teach as well. And then I used a similar system. The kids showed a similar growth pattern. They were making 20 and 25 points growth on their decoding and in their encoding. One student even made 45-point growth, even though there's some additional things I was doing with this particular student. So it showed that the data backs up that it shows substantial growth in each area when it comes to work study. And then it ties over into their ability to write fluently and being able to have those words to be able to do that. And of course, oracy. So it's great for ESLs, SPEDs, multiple students. So just as my aunt has just articulated, here's another testimonial from a kindergarten teacher from the 2020-2021 year. I spent most of that particular year developing these systems and programs. So a friend of mine, she was having some trouble, so she contacted me, and I could just read it out here. So throughout the school year, and this is just a snippet, throughout the school year, I incorporated a program in conjunction with our school's adopted reading program. The results were phenomenal. My scholars showed growth at the end of the year testing and reading. Out of 12 students, 7 students scored benchmark or above in our school's testing program. The other 5 students went from well below to below, improving their test scores by 20 to 30 points overall. And the end of the year reading map test, every one of my scholars went up by improving their scores from 7 to 30 points overall. So as you can see here, it's a similar type of growth pattern. 3 years growth, at the low end, 1 year's growth. So at the same time, students make substantial growth from someone else using the system. So I wanted this to come down as a one bullet point. I was working with a coworker earlier. Shout out to my coworker, Megan Sanders. She helped me with this presentation. So I wanted to give her a shout out for this. So the benefits of word power, phenomenal word power. It's aligned to the science of reading. I know there might be someone watching that might be looking into that because it incorporates all 5 components. I'm very heavy into that in my overall classroom instruction, but you're gonna have phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, phonics. You're gonna have vocabulary, fluency, which is part of the reading connected text. And then also you're gonna have reading comprehension gets embedded at certain points of it. Sometimes every week not as heavy, but at the same time, it's incorporated throughout the routine in the week. It's very efficient. There's not a lot of fluff. You don't have to do a lot of extra things. It's very engaging and students always love it, and you can do it anywhere, obviously. And I've used it in tutoring. I've used it in my interventions and in my regular classroom, differentiating embedded. So it's built in for ESL, for SPEDs, for kids that have different needs. It's kinesthetic, tactile. All those things are embedded in the system. It's very low prep. Once you have the exercises, it pretty much runs itself. I mean, anyone really, after the kids get used to the system, which takes a couple weeks at the most, it pretty much runs itself. You don't even really have to be here sometimes. All right, and then you can adapt for small or whole group. Now, I will say for small groups, especially for intervening, of course, the kids might not be as strong, so you might not hear as much of, they might not be able to draw upon each other's experiences, but at the same time, it's great for that, because it helps them still be able to use those context clues. But for whole group, you start hearing kids, man, they bringing their experiences, their vocabulary, and it's awesome. It increases the discussion, and the discussion sometimes can be phenomenal. All right, so now we will get to the overall Q&A portion of everything. So I was wondering this, now that some of you have had a chance to view this, what are some questions that you may have?
Hi, Jeremiah, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
So, as you know, I work with 7th grade middle school students, ELA, and I love to hear your aunt's testimony about Reading Plus, because we have since adopted that reading program at our middle school, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I am basically the Reading Plus liaison at my school. And I enjoyed hearing her testimony about how she's incorporating it with her EL learners, because even with me, learning the program and reaching out to Reading Plus, they have since, told me that they don't have a Spanish version. And basically our Spanish students would have to skip the insight assessment and then just be placed at the lowest reading level there is while they're trying to learn English. But I said that to say, in your presentation, I was wondering, how could this directly correlate over to reach those reading deficits? Because at this point that we're already being in play are now 2 grade levels behind. So how can we bridge these reading deficit gaps with the program that you have?
I speak personally to that. Like I said, this year I've been in, and I think it's been good for me to be in the classroom, especially with this system, and do it in interventions. And so, and we're even coming up with an intervention structure at our school, and I'm definitely using my word power, because it could be just traditional intervention or it could be in the classroom. So what I've done, so if you're doing an intervention and how you close those gaps, you may not sometimes focus as much on the vocabulary piece of it. You may just be focusing on the phonics piece of it. And research has shown if you mix all those elements, kids having the ability to interact with the word in multiple ways, it's so you help with the decoding, and then if they can spell, they start seeing the words. I know a student of mine told me that she's starting to be able to see the words a lot better when she's even reading. So I feel like it helps with those deficits, because I've had kids, when I started using this program at the beginning of the year, I had a few students that were at G's and H's, which is kind of beginning of the year, 1st grade, somewhere between beginning and middle of the year. And then most of those students now are at J's or they're at K's. And then my other students that I was using the system with have gone from like I's to L's. So they've moved 2 and 3 reading levels in the span of an 8-week intervention structure. And the majority of what I've been using has been this word power system. And then also one of the reasons for the growth in my classroom, closing those reading deficits, has been using this system during my small groups, or our power up, what we call it, or RTI time. I picked a group of 5 or 6 students where I really focused on phonics. And this is a 3rd grade classroom where, a lot of times phonics doesn't get taught as much, but that was my focus. And I was just so excited today where those students at the beginning of the year, where they barely could pronounce a few of the words when they were reading at a level K or L, and now they're reading at an M and their accuracy is 99, 98%. Now, obviously, if you're at the middle school level, some of those kids, I think the deficit may be more vocabulary. So you might just steer the activities more toward the vocabulary piece of it. And if their phonics are good, they know how to sound out words, they may just need the vocabulary and then at their level so they can start building those words up. I do think it's better with a whole group aspect if you want to keep building that vocabulary where they're closer to grade level. But at the same time, that's how you can close those reading deficits, because they'll start understanding because context clues isn't just answering on the test, it's as they're reading as well. So that's where I've seen kids be able to do that. And then also, when you read connected text, that's another way as well. So the kids are building that fluency, but at the same time, they're learning to look for those patterns as they're reading. I don't know if that adequately answers your question.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. So I don't know if Tariba, if you were able to hear, if you had any questions.
I do. First of all, hey everybody, and I'm sorry I can't have my video on right now, but I teach high school. I teach 10th grade English, and in Mississippi, it's our tested subject for English. And so my question is, how can I incorporate some of these strategies into my classroom, or even we do have an interventionist who comes around and she pulls students, and we're always trying to come up with something, just anything that we feel can help the students. So with the strategies that you presented, I really like the conversation behind with the pictures, especially the one with the money and the soccer team. And so going back to my question, how can I incorporate some of these strategies into a high school classroom?
Well, as you were talking, I decided to go back to the conversations. And so, of course, your kids, I wouldn't be asking them about a local place, Chuck E. Cheese or the Houston Zoo, but you can ask them, and those are debate critical thinking questions. And then here, write a convincing letter for somebody to let you borrow $1,000. So this could be a station the kids could go around. I mean, they're high schoolers, but it could be a station or a prompt where they something about something that interests them. Maybe they could have a couple power words for the week. Now I know with high schoolers, they may not need 15 words, or maybe they could have 4 or 5 power words where they can go through some of the elements of this. So say, for example, here, responding to a prompt about borrowing the money. Of course, high schoolers may love something like that. Or you can ask them to write about a location. So pick maybe 4 or 5 words, and of course it might be higher level for high school, and write a prompt on it instead of, as we know, and I've taught writing, obviously, even at the elementary level, it could be a bit rote. So not just about like standard prompt, but about something a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit more engaging to them. So they might, it's different shows.
Right.
Hey, write a prompt about which couple you like on All American or something. It might be something like that.
Right.
I'm sure you might watch that. That might be more interest to them. But they might actually be able to write about something like that. So I think it can be incorporated, but I think it would be at a much higher level. It actually give me some ideas as far as maybe what's the next step and what I can do with it. So I'm glad you asked that question, because I do feel like, just as my aunt articulated, that it could be filtered out across grade levels.
Right,
so,
me too.
So, and thank you for that question. So now
we'll
go to our next objective. I can evaluate the phenomenal word power method. So this is just our closeout, and I may even follow up with a Google form or something like that, or maybe at some point. So this is where anyone can share out. Do you feel like this phenomenal word power routine is effective? So again, I build everything according to Bloom's. So the 5th part of Bloom's is evaluate. So the question I asked, do you feel like this is an effective routine? So this is open to anyone.
Well, I feel that it is definitely effective. For me, after I finished with the English part, because my whole objective in incorporating English this year is to make sure the students feel confident. They're in high school, they're taking Reading Plus, and so building up their confidence in their language. I love the trailer part. So when I move them back into the classroom and I'm working with them on the Spanish, and speaking the language, I love the trailer, in this picture. And so they need something to get them started. So I think it's very effective, because that trailer will help move them so that they can take the vocabulary, like 4 or 5 words, to help them to write and then express themselves, in the foreign language classroom. So I really like that part.
Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any feedback on if they feel like it's an effective routine? And then we will get to the part about how you can incorporate it in your classroom.
I feel like it's an effective routine. I'm actually excited about just over the break, trying to restructure some things. Even before I left work today, I already started working
It's a bit in the matrix, but we got a little time.
Wall for with our text that we're going to be reading. It just came off, and I actually teach in Mississippi. I actually teach in Mississippi as well. Assessment yesterday dropped either. So it seems like this year our 7th graders who were 5th graders at the start of the pandemic, they're just I'm trying to with my team and I to try to get these kids to move exactly where we need to be so that we can move the school. So I'm excited about trying to implement this in secondary to see the effects of it.
All right, thanks for that. That's something maybe we can collaborate a little bit after this. All right, let's move forward and get ready to close out. So our final objective is I can relate phenomenal word power routine to my own classroom instruction. So, and Brittany has already kind of articulated that, how she would like to do it. But how can you use this routine in your classroom? So I know my Aunt Sandra talked about some of the things she's already doing. So does anyone else talk about how you potentially could do this in your classroom just after listening to the presentation?
Definitely during teacher table time. That's what popped up in my head. No, I know based off the industry, I think I could better hone in this particular thing with teacher table, which is 2 times a week within my classroom. So
awesome. So I know teachers, we're limited for time, and a lot of times, even when I do a lot of things in the classroom, sometimes you just don't have as much time to do things. So you try to, and honestly, for years, I was looking for some with words or vocabulary, whether it was a word of the day, it just never worked out. And I was trying to figure out something that worked. You know, it's become very efficient. And, you know, I wanted to add, this is something you can maybe do it for 15 minutes, or you could do it for 25. And I know like on the ConverStations day, sometimes I let it linger a little longer, because I always love the discussion. So it kind of is up to you what parts of it you want to add. And it depends really on your classroom needs and what your overall schedule look like. So I think that goes into it as well. So the people that are going to be watching this presentation, that's something you can look at as well. And I'm willing to have further discussion about that. That's something, it's very, you can adjust it any way you feel comfortable, because even when I do intervention, it normally doesn't go as long, because when you have less students. So it isn't something that you have to do for 25 minutes. It could be for 10 or 15. It just kind of depends on how you want to use it. All right, so I just want to now I just want to talk a little bit quickly about the reference material some that I use. So I wanted to give credit to Joanne Billingsley and Making Words Real, which is where I got a lot of my got that vocab trailer routine. And then Word Study That Sticks by Pamela Petrakos. I don't use all the routines in there, but it's something I prefer to. She has a lot of really cool routines for word study. So that's one of the things I looked at to kind of build this routine off of. And because I pulled in a lot of resources. It's not about in education one person having the silver bullet. It's about pulling in a lot of resources. And then finally, I would like to thank you, LitCon Committee, for allowing us to present this. And also my coworker, Megan Sanders, she's the one who came up with some of the colorful things at the end. I'm not too good at this type of stuff. All right, so to close out, I just want to thank everybody for joining us overall today. I hope those who are watching are very kind in their evaluation of the video and of the routine, but I'm just very excited to share this. It's something I've been waiting to share for a long time and using in my classroom to get those results. But really, I'm with this Reading Recovery Conference, I'm just excited for the opportunity to be able to share this, but at the same time, help education move forward, which is my ultimate goal. I got in for that reason. So I'm very excited to be able to help education move forward. So as we close out, Jeremiah Short, Sandra, you want to sign yourself out?
I want to say thank you, LitCon and Jeremiah, for giving me the privilege and opportunity to actually do my presentation and to give me that fire and zeal to go back into the classroom and continue what I'm doing. Thank you.
All right. And thank all those for joining, to Reva, Brittany, And I want our special guest, Elizabeth Gibson, third grade student at Cron Elementary. You did a tremendous job. Thank you.